The storied lineage of Scotland's domesticated haggis, a breed steeped in cultural and agricultural significance, traces back centuries, intertwining deeply with the country's heritage. From its earliest sightings in Roman historical accounts to the formal recognition of its distinct breeds in the 18th century, the Scottish haggis has been a symbol of resilience and adaptability. This video investigates the intricate history of these unique animals, exploring their evolution, the impact of industrialization, and the eventual decline that led to their extinction. It is a narrative that not only recounts the fate of a species, but also reflects broader themes of environmental stewardship, cultural identity, and the consequences of rapid industrial progress. While the distinct modern Scottish haggis breed traces back several centuries, the earliest progenitors may have been present even earlier. A key piece of evidence comes from Roman historical accounts documenting an unusual ovicaprid breed grazing the rough Hebridean islands back in 83 AD. In his published journals, Roman general Agricola recorded sighting small, long-haired sheep inhabiting Scotland's farthest northwest reaches with no evidence of husbandry. He dubbed these ragged creatures ovis lanata, literally translated to woolly or hairy sheep. While not domesticated, their shaggy coats seem an early precursor to the later haggis fleece. Agricola also noted the hardy animals appeared uniquely adapted to extreme conditions relative to more typical short-haired Roman breeds. Some analysis suggests these early Scottish feral haggis likely bore legacy traits from similar ancient European mouflon stock that enabled survival in severe environments. The insulating hair, not sheared away by human hands, afforded critical thermoregulation during bitter winters when temperatures can plunge below -20. Their stout frames, short tails, and low center of gravity and shortened hind legs also aided stability in thin soils on rugged slopes buffeted by North Atlantic gales. While not yet bred into the Scottish haggis familiar today, these accounts represent the earliest evidence of this lineage, evolving a hardy morphology, insulating it from the harshest seasonal extremes. Key ancestral traits that foreshadow defining features that would later emerge. After generations of the ancestral Hebridean stock adapting to the harsh local climate, the modern Scottish haggis emerged as a formally recognized distinct breed by the early 18th century. Classified as Scoticus terram scotibastius, this emerging breed was specifically prized for its unusually soft, downy wool. The insulating yet lightweight coats had a uniquely lofty texture and consistent warmth perfectly tailored to traditional Scottish textile making in the country's cold, damp winters. Selective breeding efforts focused on emphasizing the most characteristically shaggy, matted fleeces, along with frame, skeletal structure and muscle distribution, allowing thriving on rugged terrain with limited forage. Where other livestock failed, the Scottish haggis prospered on scraped pasture and sparse vegetation. This conferred ability to exploit grazing too marginal for cattle or standard wool breeds became a distinct hallmark. Furthermore, flavor profiles of the meat also improved over generations through extensive free-roaming fostering ingestion of diverse native herbs unavailable to enclosed stock. Accounts show traditional preparation of properly harvested haggis meat and organs delivered a rich, dense nutrition with unusual aromatic nuttiness that grew renowned in Scottish cuisine once stock levels allowed occasional culinary use. By the early years of the 19th century, dedicated haggis breeding elevated the status of the animal to a cultural icon that became indelibly associated with Scottish national identity. An expanding niche haggis husbandry industry supported thriving production levels to meet demand. Hearty haggis stock grazed the highlands and remote islands of Scotland, trucked overland along extensive routes to centralised shearing stations and livestock markets that brought in income for remote island and highland farms. As a staple food source for rural Scots, the lean yet nourishing meat of the haggis sustained families and communities. Among weavers and textile workers, the premium wool fibres harvested from the haggis coat were also coveted to produce fabrics with qualities both distinctively Scottish in origin, but also uniquely well-suited to endure the climate winds, rain and cold of Scotland without wear or complaint. With localized adaptation into variants like the Argyll, Shetland and Hebridean haggis, numbers of the distinct breed peaked by the mid-19th century, with especially robust bloodlines seen in those major haggis-producing regions. By the 1860s, many decades of localized, specialized breeding and geographic isolation of bloodlines into remote niche areas of Scotland had given rise to the emergence of distinct heritage breeds of Scottish haggis that came to be formally recognised. The first of these regional variants was the shaggier, larger-framed Highland Scottish haggis, found roaming the sweeping heather moors and rugged primordial oak forest glens of the northern mainland Scottish Highlands. Hardy and adapted to thrive on more marginal vegetation during harsh winters, rich, dark umber wool insulation and imposing upturned horns for disputing territory against red deer herds characterised this burliest of Scottish haggis strains for challenging habitat. Secondly, isolated on the stark, windswept Shetland and Orkney Islands off the northern coast of mainland Scotland, a distinctly diminutive breed of Scottish haggis evolved to suit the sodden peat banks and sparse grasses. Hardy yet petite, these island haggis displayed a spectrum of mottled fleece colours from silvers to dark browns, allowing camouflage while grazing sea pinks. Their lower centre of gravity and dense oily wool granted resilience against North Sea gales and rains. In contrast, the third recognised regional breed variant, the Argyll Scottish haggis, flourished in the boggier wooded coastal moorlands of western Scotland's rugged Argyll and nearby islands. There, the moisture-wicking properties of their bushy brown fleeces, coupled with sure-footed dexterity on rocky crags, helped populations thrive on wet bracken and mosses too marginal for other breeds. Neither large nor small, the Argyll subtype represented perhaps the archetypical vision of a versatile Scottish haggis at its 19th century zenith.